What's up, YouTube? Christian here with the Idea Lab. This week, we're printing a tetrahedron.
Okay, now that SOLIDWORKS is loaded, let's get started. So I'm going to just make a new part. And I'm going to start by sketching a equilateral triangle, or a triangle with all three of the sides equal to each other, on the top plane. So I always start by drawing it pretty rough, and then I'm going to use the relations section to help me kind of set everything straight. So what I'm doing here, I'm selecting the line. I'm going to right click, say select midpoint. I'm going to hold shift and then click the origin, and that lets me select the midpoint of this line and then the origin and tell them to be vertical. So that way, now this line is always going to be horizontal and then centered vertically with the origin. So you can see I can drag this around and it just stays centered. But we need to do that to everything. So to start with, we need to make all three of these sides equal. So I'm going to hold shift and click all three of the sides. And you see over here we get equal. So now you can see it's kind of cool. It's kind of fun to play with, but I can still move it up and down. So we need to constrain it to be always centered. So let's do that with center lines or construction lines. So I'm just going to go from point to point. And then I'm going to make all of these equal to each other using those relations tools. So if I click that line, click this one, and select this one, we can set them equal to each other. And now I can drag a point out, and we'll always have an equal triangle. It's kind of cool. For this case, we're going to make it about 2 inches long. That should be a nice little print. And at this point, I'm ready to click the check mark. We're going to move over to a new sketch. Basically, what the goal is this is going to be the shape, and we need to create a path for it to go up. So to do that, we're going to start a 3D sketch. So 3D sketch basically lets you draw in 3D space. So we're just going to keep it simple in this episode. We're going to click the line tool, click one of the 3 points, and then we're just going to drag it off into random space. So you can see it's kind of a weird tool, but it's a really, really cool tool. I'm going to select the point and our origin and select a long Y. So that way this will basically force that line to be all along the y-axis. But we can make it as tall as we want. But since the tetrahedron is composed of 3 basically equal lines that create an equilateral triangle, we need to make this equal to one of the side lanes. So I'm going to select it, both of them, holding shift, and then set them equal to each other. And now we have our little guide curve. So if I click the check mark, now we have our guide curve right here, and we have our closed surface to extrude. So I'm going to go over to Features tab, click Extrude, select this as my sketch that I want to extrude, and then using this function here, we're going to tell it what direction to go up. I'm also going to select under Blind, select up to Vertex, and we're going to click this guy right here. So it's kind of hard to visualize, but if you look at this shape, we have 2 tetrahedrons, one right here, and then one over here. So this is the bottom of the second one, and this is the bottom of the first one. So we need to create a plane to kind of cut off the second one. But luckily we have 3 points. So if we go up here to Reference Geometry, we can click Plane, and then under these 3 boxes we're going to select each point. So there's our first one, our second one, and our third one is right over here. So you can see now we got a perfect little surface there, and we're going to use that to cut off all this extra stuff. So now that we got a plane, I'm going to select that and go up to Insert, Cut, and then with Surface. What this will do is it'll cut everything on the right or left of this surface. So I'm going to select the right side of the surface, so the second tetrahedron will go away. And I should be able to click that check mark, and we are almost done. The only issue I see here is that we have this random little dot up here from when we drew our direction curve, and we also have our plane. So I'm just going to go in and hide those. So if you head on over here, we can right click and select hide, and then right click and select hide one more time. So now we have a tetrahedron. Let's head on over to Simplify 3D and get it queued up to print. So with this model, it's kind of cool. We can actually print this in vase mode. For those of you that don't know, vase mode allows you to print a continuous outline of your part. So you end up with no infill and a very, very smooth surface on the outer side, like on the outside surfaces. So since this part is greater than 45, we're able to actually just print straight up with no issues at all. it will print a bottom surface and then just kind of go up from there. So I hope the time lapse looks pretty cool. Let me get it queued up and let's check out that time lapse. Wow, this print's looking pretty good. Let's check it out. So for those of you that haven't seen this awesome mod you can do to a Lulzbot, you basically can just buy a sheet of glass, get some binder clips, and then print out this little spacer, and you can print nylon super easily. Because with nylon, you need to be able to print on a glue stick. So that's why in the beginning of the time lapse you saw me put down this Elmer's glue. That's just to help the nylon stick to the glass. It's kind of a cool thing that Tallman puts into their filaments. So here we go. We can just pull that right off. And look at that, completely hollow. You can see it's kind of, sidewalls are kind of squishy, but we're getting some really strong layer adhesion. So let's try to take it off with our trusty spatula. And let's take a look and head over to the shelf. Wow, oh! Always goes flying off. Found it. Went halfway across the room. But check that out. We got our awesome little tetrahedron. Let's head over to the shelf and let's put it on display. Well, this week we printed a tetrahedron. Check in next week and see what the next thing we're printing is. I'm Shelby with the Idea Lab. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, comment, and like.